switching tack then and thinking it instead about, not how to write the essay, but how to research the essay. So this is a page on where to look when you're kind of researching. So two resources that are really useful are Google Scholar and Full Papers. So most people will presumably know about Google Scholar. It's a big um, kind of search engine where you can look through different academic papers and academic resources. Full Papers is a bit like that, but only for philosophy, and it's a bit more kind of structured in terms of how you can use kind of tags to search for specific topics. I would encourage everybody to use the kind of cited by feature on Google Scholar. So if you have a paper that you found that you really liked, and it seems like, yes, this is exactly what I'm looking for. This is the kind of arguments that I want to be investigating, but I don't know how to find similar arguments or similar papers. You can use the cited by feature, and it will look at papers that have come out later or other research that's come out later, which has cited the paper that you're concerned about, and that can be a really good way of finding people who've responded to the argument that you might be considering. Another kind of set of resources that is useful is kind of internet encyclopedias. So we might have talked about Stanford Encyclopedia already. The Internet Encyclopedia is another good, useful resource, which is often kind of slightly more accessible than Stanford. Then another resource that I want to recommend to you is 1,000 Word Philosophy. So this is a kind of web archive of articles that are written by philosophers from kind of PhD students upwards to kind of full professors, where they're summarizing the kind of main bulk of a topic, or at least some interesting aspects of it, with a cap of 1,000 words. So given that your essay is going to be 2,000 words, can be a good resource to look at for how to write kind of effectively in the constrained word count. Other places to look might be the Journal Philosophy Compass. I mentioned that previously as a kind of overview journal, which provides really good summary papers. Also articles in kind of companions or handbooks. So these are going to be, big books, which are collections of articles around a certain topic. So you might have, the Cambridge Companion to Bioethics. And if you wanted to learn about bioethics, you'd open this big book. It would have, 20 different papers about various different issues in bioethics. And if you read all those, you'd be an expert in bioethics by the end of it. And so you might be able to find relevant companions handbooks, or indeed specialist use of journals that kind of do the exact same thing, but for your topics. Podcasts in philosophy can be really useful. So some that I particularly like are Philosophy Bites, which is run by Nigel Warburton. In Our Time Philosophy, which is run by the BBC and has philosophers on to talk about specific topics in a kind of radio show format. And then Philosophize This is kind of more to do with the history of philosophy, but it's very good in terms of giving you an understanding of how philosophical trends emerge over time and giving you a sense of, how philosophy developed over a long, long period. So all of these are quite good if you prefer to kind of listen to your philosophy rather than go and read it in books. These are kind of all kind of sufficiently academically respectable, I would say, as to where I wouldn't feel remiss about recommending these to people who are trying to do research. And then some general rules about kind of how to look. So not just where to look, but also how to look. So one of the things that's going to be useful here is, check where your sources come from. And this is going to be particularly useful in questions which are kind of about kind of religion, because there's going to be a lot of people who are, writing articles which are not necessarily designed to find the philosophical truth of the matter. They might be concerned with trying to convince people of their side, whether that be, religious or atheist. These are going to be things which are designed to kind of appeal to people and convert people to a particular side in an ongoing entrenched debate, rather than be kind of philosophically rigorous, which is what you're looking for. So check where your sources are coming from and check whether they're the kind of things that you're going to feel comfortable putting in your bibliography at the end of the day. Second principle might be to kind of reconstruct the arguments of others charitably. So even if you get a position that somebody's arguing that you don't agree with, and you think, I'm going to put this in my essay and then I'm going to tear it apart. It's important to not make them sound silly, because if you're fighting your argument against silly opponents, we're going to wonder why you've chosen that argument. So it's important to kind of reconstruct the arguments of others charitably. So we want to be, nice to them when we're setting up their argument. We want to make it look as good as possible before we then spend our time tearing it down. Because if the analogy here, it might be useful of like a boxer. So if a boxer who only fights weak opponents, if a boxer only fights weak opponents, then this is not very good evidence that they are a great boxer. Whereas if a boxer finds the strongest opponent and then still beats them with one arm tied behind their back, then that suggests they're a very good boxer. So try and find the arguments that are strongest to respond to. good general rule for just anything academic, write down references as you go. I can't tell you the amount of times that I was doing university work and I had forgotten where a quote was from, and I had to go and read through the whole book again to try and find the quote again. Um, that is not very fun. So I would suggest that you all probably have better uses of your time than going and doing that. And the best way to avoid doing that is write down references as you go. And then finally, this is more of a writing tip. So when you're writing, the principle that has been really useful for me when writing is this idea of kill your darlings. So this is a phrase, a kind of idiom, which basically means that you shouldn't just include something in your essay because you've worked hard on it and you like it, which kind of sounds slightly perverse because, if you've worked hard on something or you like it, you think it's a good point, obviously you're going to want to include it. But the point is that, sometimes not everything that you like is going to be able to fit in the essay. And it might not fit with the kind of overall structure of the argument that you're making. It might not fit with the particular conclusion that you want to reach. And, for whatever reason, it might just not fit. And so one of the hardest edits that you can ever do is taking something you worked hard on and that you like, and then deciding that that's not going to be anywhere. But this is something that can often, make essays better. By making these kind of difficult choices to cut things out, you can make your essay better sometimes, even if it's something that worked really hard on it, initially did really like. So I'd encourage you to, live by this principle when you're writing.